Hey you guys, welcome to Charts with the Kimi-san. This is a part 2 of understanding how to find your trend with a higher time frame. If you didn't watch part 1, you might want to go watch it because it gives you an explanation of what I'm about to tell you now in part 2. But in part 1, I pretty much told you that you have to use your higher time frames to know what's potentially going to happen. So with this, we had a analysis that the market was going down because we saw that on the higher time frame, on the higher time frame, it was hitting a resistance area. So when we zoomed in and got all our analysis from the higher time frame, we understood that once we was able to really zoom in, that the chart was potentially going to go down because we were in the area of sellers, and if we look to the left, we also saw strong pressure of sellers right there. So that gave us the idea that okay, well, we're going to wait until the consolidation is over, and once consolidation is over, then we go ahead and put our trade in, and then we let the trade go where it needs to go. So we had this area as our consolidation. Once it broke out of that box, that is where you sit there and put your trade in. It's very good to wait until consolidation is done because you don't want to put your trade in when you are in consolidation because your profit goes in and out. But I wanted to do a part 2 because I wanted to show you guys exactly how this trade played out. When I first did the part 2, we only saw this consolidation area and we didn't know which way it was going to go. But I told you guys that we was in the sellers area. If you look to the left, we was also looking at some selling pressure to the left. So this will potentially go down to the next area right here. And that's exactly what it did. And it gave us a straight down movement, and that put people in profit. So I just like to tell you guys that the higher time frame is very important because it's really going to give you all the information that you need when you're trying to move forward on the smaller time frame. And with this, it played out very well. You just had to be very patient when it came to this trend. And I think that this trend ended up playing out the next day or two, and it went down in the direction that we anticipated. So that's what's so important about finding the higher time frame and then going with it. So if you haven't watched part 2, part 1, I want you to really watch it so that you can see how all this played out, and then you can get a better understanding because just watching part 2, you missed some things that I said in part 1. So really go watch part 1 so that you can be able to see how we were correct with understanding that this trend was going to go down. Now I want to go do another chart, and then I can make a part 2 on that as well so that we can go ahead and understand exactly how things are playing out. So we can start with the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So we start with the higher time frame. We see that with the higher time frame that we pretty much are hitting like a resistance area. And this resistance area is pretty choppy. So it's kind of hard to tell, where it's going or where it's trying to go. But what we do see is that the market came from a support area. So you always have to look and see where the market came from and where it potentially is going. So right now it seems like it wants to head to this resistance area, but we're not sure because it's still in the middle of a movement. So if we go and zoom down just a little bit and look here inside of this box, because this box is what's important, we also see that it hit a smaller time frame and hit that resistance area. So right now we understand that we're at a resistance area. It seems on a smaller time frame. So when you're at a resistance area, if it's not breaking through, then most likely the trend is trying to go downwards, because if it was a strong trend, then that means that we will have a very bullish candle push through that resistance area. So that's something that you have to pay attention to. When you start seeing wicks on that um area of resistance or areas of support and it didn't push through, then that most likely means that the trend is trying to go in the other direction. Now, if we zoom in on the weekly, we see that The trend is showing a bullish move that it wants to go up, but we also have to understand that we're at a resistance area and that it potentially is trying to go to that next resistance. So we see that it had a very strong move up, and we don't really see any strong selling pressure just yet. So in my mind, I'm not really thinking that this trend is trying to go down just yet, because if it did, I would have probably saw another bearish candle that gave us a really good confirmation that the trend wanted to go down. But right now we have a bullish candle, so this is where we just sit and wait until we get a true confirmation. But until then, we just zoom in and see if we can see any other information. So right now it's zooming in on the 12-hour. We see that the trend came down and it gave us this W shape, but then it hit a area of resistance, that retest area. So since it hit an area of that retest, then the resistance area, and it's really not pushing through, but we still have 5 more hours to go. And if that does not push through, then automatically in my mind, I'm going to think that this trend wants to go downwards, and that this retest is just a retest of this move, and that it wants to go down to the next area. Right. So, like I said, we still have 5 hours to go. So all we can do is just zoom in and see what type of information we see. Now we do see that retest area, we have a red candle coming in, but we still kind of just want to just make sure that um that we get the right information with this. So this is something that I would just wait and just let the candlesticks just form until I see something that is familiar or something that I understand. If it's something that you don't understand, you don't want to continue to just trade and just put buys and sells all over the place. You want to wait until the market is really showing you something, and then that is going to help you to get a clear analysis of what you want to do. So right now, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking that this trend is going to go down, but until I get a really true confirmation that this trend is going to go down, I'm going to wait. Okay, so all I do is just continue to keep zooming in. So when I zoom in, like I said, I really don't see any really strong selling pressure in this area. So all that means is that this trend is just, this move is not ready. And when a move is not ready, you just wait until maybe the next day and see what it tells you. But don't just rush into the trade. Like I said, the trade is going to come to you. The move is going to come to you. You just have to stay focused on this chart. And that's another thing that I like to tell my students when they're learning how to trade, is that don't jump from chart to chart to chart to chart, because that's how you miss the move. And you may put a sell in, but then if you're not looking at the chart for the next 2 or 3 days, you may have missed the bullish move that came in, and then you lose your money. So you want to stay focused pretty much on a couple of charts that you can watch all the time, so that when moves happen, you can be right there and ready to go. All right. But we're going to go ahead and watch this because I just want to see what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and watch this and see how it plays out. If this continues to stay like this and give us a bullish move, then we know that we can go ahead and put a buy in and then go to our take profit right here. But we still have some more information that we're waiting on, so we just don't want to jump into this move just yet. We do know from the higher time frame that we are hitting a resistance area. So I'm more on the bearish side, but I still need a nice strong red candle to come in to really give me that confirmation that this is going to go down. So we just continue to wait for that move to happen. But I will have another part 3 to this so that we can go ahead and watch this. And as you guys are watching and watching the part 3s and the part 2s and the part 1s, you can see how everything is unfolding, and that is how you will understand what is happening. You have to always make sure that whatever analysis that you do, you want to be able to go back and check and see if you were right or wrong. Because if you were wrong, then you can learn your mistake in whatever you were doing. If you make an analysis and then you just ignore it and move on to something else, you will never know what you did wrong. So make sure you guys, you pay attention to a couple of charts so that you can continue to watch it and learn your mistakes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and watch this. And we're going to see how this all play out. I'm personally on the selling side, but I need more information. So until then, we're going to continue to keep watching and see what happens.